Welcome to Courtney on Health, heard on MalcolmPresents.com, your streaming portal to a brand new world. Actually, it's a world of podcasting and Zoom casting, because we have pictures. Anyway, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Okay,
Or I'll say good day.
good day.
So good day. Hi,
Take us
mates.
into the show, Max.
Hi, Courtney, and hi, Malcolm, and welcome to Courtney on Health, a Zoomcast podcast series which focuses on one's overall health and well-being, with tips on nutrition and exercise given by Courtney Gravenese, registered dietitian with a Master of Science degree in nutrition and applied physiology. Courtney is an experienced nutritional and health consultant in the New York metro area, and it goes beyond that. We haven't figured out to how far. We've used the universe a few times, and we need that James Webb telescope, and we'll help guide you on a path to wellness and health. So,
And righteousness.
Righteousness, spirituality, mental acuity, acumen. I don't know. Because food is all related to that. It relates to everything, and exercise and everything. So some food trends come and go, but a lot of them keep a place on the menu, and people tend to be adventurous while others shy away from new things. Some people don't like that spicy food. Some people like that sweet. I like sweet and spicy. It doesn't matter. And let's see if I get this right. The charcuterie board was a new idea, a few years ago, and it's here to stay. It looks like. I think Courtney will probably say yes to that.
Between that and the veggie platter.
And or the Vegemat, Vitamita Vegemin. So that was before its time, right? Lucy had something. So what food trends in 2023 are going to happen, and what could be included in those things that we might find? Seems to be a rise in food that, like mood food, curry, mushrooms, that'll be on the dinner table more this year. I don't know. Courtney's going to have to really get on that. In years past, pumpkin spice, kimchi, Korean cuisine was in. I still think it's in. And in general, have gained in popularity, with Americans eager to try new things. So, Courtney, you need to spotlight this, because I went through things and I Googled things, and I saw things like, dirty soda, and things that I would never, and slushies with White Claw. I mean, I was like, what is this? But
here's the thing. Yeah,
good. Please go into it.
So, just because it's trending doesn't necessarily mean it's A, yummy, or B, healthy. So, but it could be trending regardless. So, we'll talk about, this information is gleaned from, and obviously if you search for 2023 food and beverage trends,
that's what I did. I was like,
you're going to get, a wide spread of different opinions, but the bulk of the most credible data comes from like Nielsen research data. It's coming from restaurant groups. It's coming from like literally companies that are set up worldwide to assess like food trends, from restaurant, like store purchase power, things like that. So it's really pulled from what's actually, I know this phrase gets overused a lot, but sort of the boots on the ground folks, right? So, but it's interesting. It does change every year, but there's always a little bit of overlap. But what we know for 2023 is that there does seem to be this health and finances foundation to a lot of what's driving these trends. So, every year we do see a push towards, okay, people want to be healthier, so what they think they're buying or what they are buying, they hope is going to lead to better. And the other side, because we're feeling so compressed, many of us are feeling compressed with finances, inflationary issues. So over the next year and potentially 2 years, we can see a lot of these trends being grounded in people's need to just make that dollar stretch a little bit greater. So, what will protect our health and our planet seems to be at the top of the list. So I have to tell you, one that's at the top, I'm actually a little bit happy about, but we'll talk about that in a second. So health of planet, health of ourselves, simplicity. What will save us time, what will save us money. So that's not to say that we're not going to see really elaborate dishes and cuisines, but people are moving towards, look, I've got a fixed amount of money, fixed budget. I need something that's going to feed either me or a big brood of people in my house, and I need something fast but healthy as well. So there seems to be a push towards that. And then lastly, we've got this sort of bold and global theme going on, driving trends. And basically that is grounded in people are looking for a distraction. People want to, move away or think about something that's a little bit more, exotic, even if they can't travel per se. So, the health and the planet trend. So at the top of the list is this moving away from, and I'm not going to say plant-based because I wish that the message, and we've talked about this on this show many, many times. I wish our messaging was not the three of us. I meant, as an industry was better at saying plant-based, yes, whole food plant-based, better. And the wave of the plant-based, the fake meat seems to be dwindling significantly, at least for the next coming year. I think people have realized that, and research is starting to show this, they're not as primarily healthy as we think they may be. And this is the highly processed fake meat that I'm talking about. And it's questionable whether there's really any benefit to the environment or how much of a difference there is in the benefit to the environment. So people are getting it. It's like, okay, so maybe not a plant-based, McDonald's hamburger or any of the fake meats that are out there. But yeah, we're going to have more legumes and we're going to have more tofu and we're going to have beans and we're going to have those that are whole in nature with less done to them and not trying to create a new meat. So from my perspective and from my client base, I will say that that's a trend. That's not my trend. That's what they're suggesting as a trend. That happens to be a great moving in the right direction for me.
But you're getting, in terms of the planet, health of the planet, health of yourself. There was, a push to try to make these fake meats more appealable on that area, but that was because there's meat production, raising of cattle, fertilizers, using things that are actually detrimental in so many ways. We're talking about the big ag, the big companies, like the small farmers. You're going to get meat from, the farmers who are, really conscious of what, how they treat their animals and what they feed their animals. That's one thing. If we can go to that versus what they're doing, you don't say wipe something out completely, but there is a lot of, information about the problem with the cattle and
yeah, well, isn't it with the cows that with the methane that they release?
they're breathing and belching out. It's not the other end, it's the front end, not the back end. But anyway, go ahead, go.
Yeah, no, 100%, Maxine. This is not to say that the meat, we could do a whole segment about the efforts that are trying to be made, because right now, from a cost perspective, and then I'll go back to my trends, that small farm or rancher that's trying to produce, it's fantastic, but and would be great if we could model that on a grander scale. But right now, that meat for a lot of folks is so cost prohibitive that it's not included. But so I was really speaking to specifically the meat, the fake meat that in theory people said, okay, it's going to be better for the environment, it's better for our health. And both of those things now, based on data, are saying, you know what, we may need to rethink this because we're just not seeing that. So I'm thrilled because I think more plants, moving away from a little, as much red meat as we eat is a great thing. But this whole food push is great, and clearly the data that we're seeing in terms of trending seems to be pushing in that direction, which is fantastic. So in addition to legumes, beans, seaweeds being looked at as the hot food of 2023. You mentioned it, Maxine. Mushrooms, which to me, I'm like, they've always been there. Like, what's hot about them, right? Like, you know, but listen, if somebody wants to focus on, encouraging mushroom intake, I think that would be great, particularly maitake mushrooms. But I think we're going to see those more frequently in grocery stores, more often in restaurants, and we already do see them quite a bit in restaurants. But they're very versatile. They're a great option. So that's what one of the trends appears to be. Along the lines of sort of a little bit, more earth friendly, a big trend towards climate friendly crops. And I know we've spoken about, and we do need to do an episode on this, regenerative farming. So we're going to see more, a push towards some ancient type grains. And even though I think the more variety of grains people eat from a health perspective, the better off, first of all, from just a crop rotation perspective. But these ancient grains, apparently, because they have a very, very deep root system, allows much more farming flexibility that would prove beneficial for the environment. So look for those, and the ones you might see more of. I've had amaranth before. I can't say I've had something called einkorn, Einkorn, and then one called taro, not farro. I know we've spoken about farro before. So we may see more of these, again, in grocery stores, in markets, and then certainly on menus in restaurants.
Quick question: what about the gluten-free pastas that are made with like lentils, chickpeas, stuff like that? Or is that going to continue to trend up, you think?
You know what? I think what it comes down to for a lot of people is taste. If they can get the taste of these gluten-free pastas, and I will say, to be fair, they've certainly come a long way. Because when I first started doing this and was tasting the gluten-free availability of things like bread, it was grim. It was really grim. So I think that certainly would be, a great thing out there. I know Banza is a great brand, like a chickpea. So I think all of these, for a variety, that doesn't mean people need to give up their regular pasta. It doesn't. But, if you're trying to increase the variety, and of course, if there's more of this on the market and more of it is being sold, that ultimately brings down the price of these things. So I definitely think that I wouldn't even call it necessarily gluten-free. I would just say it's more like variety friendly.
But I'll tell you what it seems. It's not only the vegetables, it's the type of vegetable, but how it's prepared, and what type of sauce do you have on it? Yeah, and what can you dip it into? Which a lot of the times I go a lot of vegetables because of not necessarily because of the taste, but the texture of them and how they chew, and dip it in whatever sauce that I have.
Yeah. Do you mean for pastas, Malcolm, or are you talking about vegetables in general?
Well, vegetables in general, but pasta specifically also, where they have a clam sauce on it, white clams, or salsa, whatever. It changes the whole taste of it.
Yeah, well, and I know we're digressing a little bit here, but you bring up an excellent point, Malcolm, about for a lot of people. I mean, we're not all gourmet chefs, including myself, right? I'm a decent home chef. I've been doing this for a long time, but I think people get intimidated, and they think they have to choke down raw vegetables, which they don't. And there's a way to prepare them so that they're tastier and they're still helpful and beneficial. And but I think some of it is a knowledge. Like, if they're not used to doing it, they just need a few tips. And that's why what we try to do on this show is mix in, a little science, little nutrition, little how-to, so to make it a little bit easier for folks who really are trying to.
Or if they can't call you up, an excellent source is Google. I mean, my wife does that. She has some sort of recipe book.
I have to tell you, yes.
And goes to Google.
Cooking stuff? Absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, there was some of the trends, that we're definitely seeing. No, the next one is, and this phrase cracks me up. I had never heard it before. Maybe you guys have, being sober curious. Have you guys heard of it?
Curious?
Sober curious. So
sober curious.
Sober curious. So you guys might have heard, I think we spoke about this, that over the last couple of years, there's certainly been a surge and we have hard data, because all you need to do is look at wine, beer, and liquor sales, over the last couple of years. And there's clearly been an uptick. I forget the exact percentage, so I don't want to quote it incorrectly. That this push that, okay, maybe we need to dial this back a little bit. Certainly from a health perspective, we know the ills of drinking too much. But for a lot of people, completely going cold turkey is just not a feasible option for them for a variety of reasons. Now, obviously, if somebody is really suffering, they should get some help. But for people for health reasons trying to dial back, there's this sober curious, and it's maybe having less. So either having the real deal and having less of it. So that's certainly one option. But there's a whole line of these low alcohol by volume beverages out now. So we're seeing, so in 2023, you can look for them. And then the whole line of zero proof spirits. So now, Malcolm, you make me laugh because I think one of our last episodes, you said, you kind of look for it for a teeny bit of, of a lift, of a buzz, but these options for people will certainly increase the variety of things that they can drink that don't necessarily have the same alcoholic punch as some of the traditional ones.
Yeah, well, when I was looking at this, I wasn't quite sure which way you were going on things, but when I saw it, I mentioned before, this White Claw, which is hard seltzer slushy, and it's a blended frozen drink. And I was talking to Malcolm earlier. I said, I had a few years ago, Mike's hard lemonade. And you drink that and it's like you're drinking lemonade, but you drink 2 or 3 of those, boom, it's not good. It's
you're swinging from the rafters.
Right. And it's like, and it tastes like, lemon. I mean, there's really not much, it's a slight taste, but so they're making these things, and of course you want your kiddos, especially in White Claw or Mike's Hard, you don't want them really drinking all that stuff and making a slushy out of a White Claw mango seltzer. I mean, yeah.
And we're gonna delve into this a little bit deeper when I do in January. We're gonna do our dry January episode, and we're gonna talk at length about a lot of these different options for folks. But you're absolutely right, because from a health perspective, depending on if there's no net difference in the alcohol, because it tastes so good and it's so light that you're drinking more of it. If the net, difference is very little, then there's no benefit there. So there really has to be overall less consumption from the alcohol perspective. And then from a calorie weight perspective, if you're mixing White Claw, even though White Claw has very little calories per ounce, and you're mixing that, I think the recipe you sent me, Maxine, had like coconut milk,
different things.
It's a 300 calorie cocktail, and you're better off with a light beer or a glass of wine, quite frankly, at that point. So we'll talk more at length, but what the statistics are showing in terms of what's going to be available because of interest, and all you need to do is look on any of the social media feeds, and they're constant, like all of these different elixirs that are adaptogens, and those might be the zero alcohol options, or the bitters that might, they're trying to give you an option that say, okay, you know what, you don't need that gin and tonic at night. Maybe you can get by with just, some tonic version of it. So I think
for yourself, Courtney.
What's that? Speak
for yourself.
Well, now, they're saying that teas, teas are becoming more popular because they're healthier, right? Green teas. And as a nutritionist, you would push tea, I would assume you would say, drink, if you drink green tea, it's good. If you even black tea, not through the roof. But then I was looking through stuff, and I saw things that I never saw before for certain teas. And I'm like, what the heck? Yaupon tea.
And then there's a smoked Japanese tea that's trending. Yeah. I'm sure I'm going to destroy it.
Hojicha tea. I'm like, I love tea. So when I saw this, I went, what is this stuff? Should I try this stuff? Should I try this, Courtney?
I think it's,
as a dietitian, do you think it's a good idea to check it out? I could get it. And
I tried, remember last year we spoke about matcha. We spoke about the boba tea and the bubble teas, remember? So those are still out there. I don't think they're going away just yet. But every year, they need to turn the volume up a little bit. And, maybe this is something that's just gaining traction across the country, and we're just learning about it now. maybe, like I said, it's more available in larger retail stores and in restaurants, so people are hearing more about it. But I think if you can get hold of it or try it, there's certainly no downside to it. Whether or not it will replace alcohol intake, I think is too early. It's yet to be seen, but certainly an option.
Right.
So
well, a lot of people drink alcohol basically to get a little buzz, not necessarily for the taste, but they want to get a little high. Do you think
Tastes
that
yucky mostly.
but do you think that the influx, the legalization of marijuana and and the various aspects of that will reduce people's drinking? And do you think it'll be better to replace? I know it's a little off the topic, but to replace a high that buzz you can get from the marijuana than you get from the drinking. Is it easier on the body?
I think if you ask most people in the know, me not being one of them, I comb through the research. If you look at, let's just take a look at driving, right? I think they would say you would be better off being a little high versus a little than being drunk in terms of reflexes, but in terms but by how much? I think, again, this is a whole different conversation we're talking about, so I don't know the answer, but I think we are unique as Americans. Malcolm, to your point about we want the buzz. If you look at Europeans, now that's not to say they don't do it to get drunk, okay, or for the high, but in many parts, it's part of the fabric of a meal, of enjoying a meal, and that's very different. Some Americans have that, but I think it's more widespread belief or cultural practice outside of the United States. Again,
they do drink lots of, you were in Europe this summer, so I was in Europe in September, and they can drink. In Scotland, in a pub, forget about it.
No doubt.
And in Paris, bottles of wine fly. So it's in their culture. A kid could drink earlier. There's no real restriction.
Right? There's no drinking age, right?
Right. So, but I don't know. Maybe do they not get that buzz as much? I don't know if they're eating. I don't know. It's a cultural thing.
I don't know. That would be interesting to see. And I'm actually, now that you're bringing this up, it's making me think. I wonder if these sober, curious cocktail drink options are also trending. Remember, these are US statistics I'm quoting. This is not necessarily worldwide. And I do wonder if these, zero proof, low ABV options are trending worldwide. I would have to look that up. I'd be curious to see. My gut is not, but I can't say that for sure.
I did after just being in that culture and seeing what was happening. I was like, I can't. They're like, what? It's like off the scale some places. But that's what they do.
So also trending, because I know we run out of time so quickly on this show.
This is true.
Again, I'm thrilled about this one. A real versus processed. I think very, very slowly, more folks are getting the message about minimally processed versus overly processed, which is great. And this includes our sweetener options as well. So movement away from firstly artificial sweeteners, and who knows, it'll yet to be seen whether things like stevia and monk fruit juice will fall out of favor as well. Although those are more natural sugar replacements, the research does seem to indicate that date sweeteners is something to look for. So you may see that in more baked products. You may see it more in beverages. But again, this is one of those ones we said at the top of our time together that not every trend is necessarily going to be any healthier. And when it comes to sweeteners, as we've discussed, it really does, the calories will be the same. So you need to account for those calories from whatever the source, whether it be cane, beet, date, honey, Agave, they are all coming in at 4 calories per gram, and there's no way around that. So I worry a little bit about that trend, because I think people will say, oh, it's date sweetener. And it's really, it's not like eating the whole date where you get the fiber and the skin and all of the whole fruit in there. Again, this is going to be a sweetener derived from that. I haven't seen it yet, so I really can't, I haven't tasted it or seen it, but
more in California, because dates, when you go into the desert, you know, and you head towards Palm Springs, and if you take that road trip, you'll see dates. You'll see date trees. You see dates.
Right.
It's like, buy dates. Could it be the California Date Council behinds? Who knows?
maybe.
You know,
Maybe. So, but you know, like I said, I haven't seen. Have you tried anything? I mean, I know we've all eaten dates, but I mean,
I've had dates, but I have not. I stopped dating a long time ago. No, I've had dates, and especially when I was out.
Your husband will be thrilled to hear that, Maxie.
All right, he's good. He knows I'm such a jokester. But yeah, I haven't tried like date syrup or anything like, you know, stuff like that. No.
Okay.
But I've I love dates, the fruit, you know, is
Courtney, I don't know if you know the answer. Is sugar that bad if taken judiciously? I mean, if I take a teaspoon of sugar in coffee once in the morning, once in the evening, is that really that detrimental? Of course, I know eating the sugar in cakes and, you know, where you put into it an overuse of it, but like as I say, just judiciously, a teaspoon of sugar with coffee.
No, this, I mean, we all get a budget of it. It's 24 to 26 grams for women. It's 36-ish for men, grams total of added sugar. So that doesn't include, remember, our like fruit from the sugar that's found naturally in either like yogurt or like milk or in fruit. So yes, that would be fine. So as long as you're sticking in general to that budget of specifically added sugar, I think we do know the ills and the evils of sugar. I mean, we know what it can do. So I think for many of us, it's just a matter of choose which one you like, whether it be agave or cane sugar or date, and just stick within that minimum amount of added sugar, and you're going to go down a better road to wellness.
How does that work into like teaspoons? Like, what would be a cutoff? Like 20 teaspoons, no good. You know, 3 teaspoons. I mean, how do you work that in?
Well, the reason why I do grams, Maxine, with the exception of adding it to things like maybe a bowl of cereal or a coffee or a tea, most people, at least when I'm working with an individual, I encourage them to look at a food label that specifically points out the amount of grams of added sugar. So for me to teach and encourage teaspoons when most of what we're reading is in grams sometimes get people tripped up. But just so you know, we're talking 4 grams in a teaspoon of like granulated sugar. Which is about 16 calories. That's generally how many calories in a teaspoon of sugar. Okay. But again, most of what we read on our labels is going to be in grams, not in teaspoons.
Yeah, what confuses me is I don't know why, you know, just in general, why, you know, in America we use this ounces and pounds, but everything is, you know, when you the labels, everything is grams. It's the same way, you know, like you see the bottles that says liters. I have no idea what a liter is. I know what a quart is. I know what a pint is. What the hell is a liter?
Well, they certainly need, you know, there should be a couple of things taught in school that kids need to know, especially food labels. There should be a section on, you know, when they have classes that we used to have that. We used to get information. They do. Good.
It's not a very, you know, they do. It's part of either a health class or part of
health classes. Sure.
Yeah. So they try to encourage it, but you keep in mind that, I mean, certainly I think it's helpful for kids to be able to read a package of something that they might getting in their lunchbox or in the lunchroom for sure. Mm-hmm. But in many cases, it ends up because the parents or the caregivers are the purchasers, A, and then the people preparing the food, B, oftentimes it also needs to be those people in their world as well. So the two of those together can make some better choices.
We have about a minute left. Are there any foods or things that you wanted to hit on before we say goodbye?
So the last thing would be sort of the joy in food and some interesting sort of global, mashups, I call them. So, and I haven't seen this yet, but doing things like sushi pizza, or cheeseburger tacos or so there might be some interesting, again, I don't know if these are going to be necessarily helpful, but you may see them more. I think that the whole idea of a distraction comfort food, it wouldn't be so peculiar to see that, since people are looking for a hug, a food hug.
Mac and cheese is one of those, right? Mac and cheese is a food hug. Pizza, but and also regional pizzas, and also sweet and savory things that are popular. And I like Indian food. I like different spices, curries and such. So I think people are starting
to good hot dog with mustard and sauerkraut.
Not the healthiest thing on the planet.
That's what I'm saying. It's a feel good food.
It is, but
it takes me back to the old days when I go to the ball game or the some sporting event with hot dogs.
Well, that was the first thing the dietitian told me after my little ticker incident was stay away from hot dogs. It was one of, you're a dietitian. That was one of the first things, and they give you, diet, eat this, not that. Yeah. And it's like, if you can avoid it, and I think in 5 years I've maybe had one hot dog. Once in a blue moon, and it hasn't been really, but it actually scared me somehow. It's like, is that, was that a right thing to scare me about? I guess maybe yes.
Well, if it got you to eat less of them.
Hot dogs.
It's a rare. It's just
hot dogs and pizza.
Yeah, no, I'll eat pizza, much more than I would even think of a hot dog.
And I'm not giving a plug. Haagen-Dazs ice cream.
Oh, well, all right. There's always
guys.
You gotta have comfort food. So yeah.
This is our last show before Christmas, because we'll be
taking a Christmas break.
We're on because Courtney is going to be too busy unwrapping all her presents, wrapping her.
She'll be too busy entertaining a ton of people. You'll be. I don't think you'll be out of the kitchen. Actually, I'll walk by and I'll go.
Maxine, please come by, because if you see me buried under a ton of china, save me, all right?
I'm all for saving. I just wrote a song called "Saving It for You." So
let's get to the spirit. Peace on earth. Goodwill.
Peace on earth, goodwill
Happy
towards
holidays
men.
to both of you. All good things in the new year.
Yeah, health and happiness, and,
okay, guys,
and getting through. All righty, I'll take you out.
Take us out.
Take us out. So thanks for joining us for Courtney on Health. To get more info, follow Courtney on her Facebook page, Courtney on Health, on Instagram, which is at CLG Wellness. Also on TikTok. Courtney on Health. The website is CourtneyGravenese.com. So for more shows, go to MalcolmPresents.com and theManyShadesOfGreen.com. This is Courtney on Health, smart, sound nutrition, strong, safe fitness, and we will catch you again next time. And happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Bye. Happy holidays.
Bye.